Lisa Lockwood, you're an expert in this particular area, have been a former SWAT officer. What do you think of this testimony and prosecutor clearly trying to get out how all the other police officers were following the training? Thoughts?
Yes, he's doing a great job, and he's got video evidence, which is his own private personal camera. So all of it's going to be corroborated without a doubt. He did what he was supposed to do and trained to do. He rendered aid when it was safe to do so. So getting him Dante out of the vehicle when they felt it was safe after the girlfriend had exited, not knowing what weapons were there, not knowing anything about the shooting whatsoever, who was involved, who the aggressors were, and rendered aid as soon as they thought it was safely possible. And I believe that because of this man's training, everything that you're going to see will be corroborated. He's got expertise behind him.
Yeah, I want to follow up with one other question. Earlier, we showed the prosecutor's opening statement talking about the incident itself and kind of condemning the defendant in this case for having pulled the weapon out in the first place. Can you talk to us a little bit about the use of force continuum and specifically with respect how officers are trained that pulling a weapon out, even if you can't use lethal force, is actually part of their constructive authority?
It is because, again, you're approaching a vehicle, you don't know what's in that vehicle. When you have an officer who is responding to a shots fired, does not know all of the basic tenets behind it, who is involved. Now we have a vehicle crash and we have other agencies who are responding to that. The protocol is to have your weapon in the ready position just in case. We've had injured suspects all the time continue to return fire, to get out of a vehicle injured, to endanger other people. So the rule of engagement is that expect that that individual potentially has a weapon and you're going to make sure that the surroundings are safe to protect yourself and the public.
Andrew, if you were a defense attorney in this case, are you putting on a use of force expert to talk about this use of force continuum and their training?
Absolutely. And again, this is kind of what we talked about earlier. Is you're kind of flipping the script on what usually happens in these types of cases. But you're absolutely talking about the continuum of the use of force. You're talking about what would have been an appropriate amount of force in this type of situation. And if you're taking the story as true, that you would have someone that basically says like, yes, this is an opportunity that was tailor made for the taser. If you say that, you can
Yeah.
establish that it was okay to use the taser and that she felt that she was using the taser or thought that she was going to use the taser. I think you could save your client here.
Okay, very good. They're back from the sidebar now again with police officer Dan Irish. Let's go live to court. All right, Lisa, we can't really see a lot of what's going on there. Obviously, you're hearing in the background the necessitative efforts that we know obviously were unsuccessful. Talk to me a little bit more, Lisa, about this use of force continuum and how officers are trained with respect to the dangers they confront when they're approaching a vehicle in circumstances like this.
Yeah, so with this particular example, when the traffic stop was conducted, they're going back and forth on making the decision of whether or not she knew he was wanted prior to the stop, or was it just a stop for investigative purposes. So the point that they knew they were going to arrest Dante for his warrant for using a weapon, it became escalated. And at the point where Dante was physically resisting and attempting to flee, she had every right to use her taser in order to stop him from doing so. And she made the announcement and did all the protocols required for using the taser, the verbal announcement, the 3 times, and actually firing once, because a taser cartridge, you can only fire 1 time. If this police officer intended on killing him and using deadly force, that officer would have shot 2 times, as we're taught in training. It's called double tapping. If you're using deadly force, you are going to ensure that that person is going to be stopped, because one shot doesn't do the job in all cases because of where it ends up landing. So the fact is, she shot once, she said taser. And we know that other officers who have made this mistake over the last 20 years, we've had 15 cases, 2 deaths, that those officers were convicted for second-degree murder, that it was not intentional.
Okay, excellent. Let's go back live to court.